I'm talking today to Sue Pickerin, who works here in Edinburgh. She is setting up the first PGD lab in Edinburgh. PGD stands for Pre-Implantation Genetic Diagnosis. So who actually makes the rules whether you can have PGD or not, and are they the same in every country?
Well, Scotland has the same rules as the rest of the UK. Here in the UK we have a governing body called the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, and they make the rules for everything to do with both PGD and fertility treatment. And they're very good actually. Their rules are very fair, if strict, and so there are very, very strict rules about what we can do with genetic disease, which genetic diseases we can test, what we can do with PGD, and basically they apply to everyone. Now that's certainly not the case in other countries, but I think we're very lucky to have such a good sort of body like the HFEA tells us exactly what we can and can't do, so then everyone knows what the rules are.
I know you can use PGD to choose whether you get a boy or a girl baby. Can you do that in this country?
No, I'm afraid not. Some couples have asked for that to be done, but it's strictly forbidden in the UK. The HFEA basically says that that's not permissible. But it is permissible. You can do it in other countries, some European countries and definitely in America.
What are saviour siblings then?
Well, if a couple have a child with a serious genetic disorder that's caused leukemia, then potentially they could use PGD in two ways. So firstly, if they want another baby, they can use the PGD to avoid having the next child having leukemia, and then they can arrange using PGD for the baby to be a genetic match to the child that is sick. So then when that child is born, you can take blood cells, stem cells from the umbilical cord of the baby, and they can be used to cure the child that is sick.
Is that done often?
In this country it's not done very often at all, and in this country you can only use this sort of saviour sibling technique if you are matching to the baby that is poorly, that has got a genetic disease. So if the baby's got a genetic disease, if you've already got a baby with a genetic disease and you want to make another baby which hasn't got one, then you can use the saviour sibling thing. But in the USA, you can really use it for any situation where you've got maybe a sick child and you want a match for them. It doesn't matter if the genetic disease is inherited. If you just want to cure leukemia in a child you've already got, then you can make a saviour sibling.
I've seen the film My Sister's Keeper, and obviously for the family it's a really sad experience. Is that what's like in real life?
Well, I've not seen the film myself, but I've heard people who have been to see it, and I know generally what the story is. And to be honest with you, I'd be very surprised if that happened anywhere, and it certainly wouldn't happen in the UK. It's not legal for a child to be a kidney donor, as happened in the story of My Sister's Keeper, or a bone marrow donor. So, I think it was probably entirely fictional, just a story. In my real life experience of PGD with saviour siblings, it's always been a really positive, beneficial experience for all concerned. Basically, you get a healthy baby, which is usually a very loved baby, which is, under normal circumstances, able to either save the life or very much improve the health of quite a sick sibling, sort of sister or brother. So it's very beneficial for everybody, and that's been very much my experience.
I have a Catholic friend who's a bit iffy about the whole PGD designer baby thing.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I think it's probably more to do with the infertility part of PGD, the IVF part. So certainly my own long years experience of doing IVF, I know the Catholic Church have got a problem with discarding or not using any embryos that you actually create in the lab. Now, that I personally think is a very personal choice for the couple who are undergoing PGD. Quite often they've they've had a long journey to get to PGD, and they've had quite a lot of tragedy in their life, and they choose to have PGD. And if they want to, then that's fine. Because actually, I know that the Catholic Church don't want us to make embryos that we're not going to use. But for these couples, the alternative is that they often have to keep having pregnancies that they then subsequently have to have an abortion for an affected child. And that causes them an awful lot of trauma and grief and anxiety. So I personally just think it's a personal judgment for the couple to make.
So many of these embryos that you make, would either miscarry or be aborted anyway?
Well, it depends on the genetic disease itself, but the idea with PGD is that we make quite a few embryos so we can choose the ones that haven't got the genetic disease. So quite often the ones that we're going to then discard have got the genetic disease, and therefore if they were to be implanted, they'd either create a baby with a genetic disease, or they would lead to a miscarriage. Yeah.
So how many people do you actually help a year with this?
Well, at the moment we're only getting started in Edinburgh anyway. So we've got plans. We've got 3 couples who are coming through at the moment, and then eventually we're hoping to be able to help probably not more than 20 to 30 couples a year.
That's not many at all.
Well, really, there aren't that many people who have got genetic diseases, and Scotland is a relatively small country. So we only treat those people who have got genetic disease in their family who really want PGD, and there aren't that many of them.
So you're only doing it for people who have serious genetic diseases. You're not doing it for eye colour and hair colour. You don't do it for boys and girls, and it's not that many people anyway. So you're not actually making designer babies?
No, actually we can't make designer babies. It's not possible to make designer babies. So we really do only help people who have got really big problems with severe genetic disease.